Welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week we will discuss tools, tips, and ways to radiate your best life ever, interviewing practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate? Hi, and welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. Today we radiate balance with return guest Marie D. Jones, author of The New Witch, your guide to modern witchcraft, Wicca, spells, potions, magic, and more. I tell you what, I love this book. Hi, Marie. Welcome back.
It's so good to be back. Thank you.
So The New Witch, and we decided when we were chatting earlier to radiate balance, because this book, you say it balances the old ways and the new ways. Yeah. Tell us about why you wrote this book.
I actually can't take all the credit. I had done a book called Earth Magic for the same publisher, earlier this year. That was more of a traditional look at the different earth traditions. And in a conversation, my publisher, Roger at Visible Ink Press, we were talking about how social media and the internet and all this new technology has really changed the face of older traditions, whether it's witchcraft, Wicca, paganism, shamanism, because we now have all these new resources and new ways of communicating, sharing information, teaching people about the different crafts, different practices. Mm-hmm. And I got on Instagram and started following some of the more prominent sites, and it's just so fascinating to see people, hey, I'm going to teach you how to make your own candles for your candle rituals, or I'm going to show you how I made my altar. And before all of that had to be done word of mouth or getting together with people in your community that were of like mind. And now it's global. You can have a global coven, global friends that are doing the same thing. And you could still practice on your own, but you have access to all of these resources that we just didn't have before.
Right. And then, I'm looking at the cover. It's very clever. So it's the cover of the book is a smartphone, and it's got icons for potions, runes. Looks like there's a pentagram, there's a cauldron, a chalice. They're set up. They look like icons or like.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great cover. I don't know exactly who designed it at Visible Ink, but I thought that was so clever.
Oh, yeah. So yeah. What makes this book modern witchcraft?
So the practice is always going to be the same. It has a basic, long-standing tradition to it, and that is reverence of the earth. You may, ascribe to a certain type of witchcraft or Wicca where you believe in a goddess or a god and a goddess or a lot of them. And it's all that traditional stuff, but placed into a new vehicle of communicating, sharing, learning, teaching, swapping herbal recipes. So it's taking the old teachings and introducing them to new audiences via technology. So it's kind of an interesting balance between the old and the new. Now, a lot of people will say, well, excuse me, are you advocating like new laws and new rules? And I think that what I'm seeing out there is people bring their own uniqueness and their own spin, but the basics stay the same. Because when you start losing the old traditions, the old basics, it's no longer what it's no longer witchcraft. It's no longer Wicca, paganism, shamanism, Native American traditions. So it's not about, let's recreate all this stuff completely from the bottom up. It's about finding new ways to honor those those ancient traditions and what they're trying to teach us.
Right. Yeah. So it's taking the old ideas, the old concepts, the old ways, and maybe just like bringing them up to date, up to the 21st.
We have to. We don't have a choice. We don't communicate on the telephone like we used to, or going to our neighbor's house and getting together with them. I mean, some people do, and I think there may actually be a sort of a movement back to that because people are so cooped up lately. I think they're realizing how much they miss that. But you can communicate, like I'm in San Diego, California. I can learn how to do something from somebody in Iceland on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. I might not have access to that. They might have a really cool herbal remedy for the common cold. And if you're someone that doesn't want to now necessarily use a pharmaceutical or over-the-counter medications, you might not know how to do that. So here's this person from Greece and this person from Indiana, and I have access to all of this information that I didn't have before. And they have access to me or to anybody else. And that's where it's really cool. It also is bringing together people from all different walks of life, young, old, every color and creed, because sometimes within our own small social circles, we're very limited with that. We might only hang out with a couple of women, or if you're a guy, you have your guy pals. But this opens it up to really being able to communicate with anybody and everybody.
And to find anybody and everybody. Even it's like you go on Facebook and you can just search for coven or witch or astrology or whatever you're into and find
it's there. And just looking up even the one word, let's say astrology or witchcraft, you're going to get 1 million more specified groups that you can join, from LGBTQ to co-ed to just women only or this, that, the other thing. You'll find, and you might also find local groups that you can communicate with and then eventually feel comfortable enough with, meet people in person. But, I hate to say that we're becoming a global society to the point where it's a preference to join a group where you've got people from all over the world. But that's just the reality. But the internet and technology and social media has still made it possible for you to communicate with people in your own area. There's a really awesome program, has nothing to do with the subject matter, called Nextdoor. It's an app. And I'm on it for my community. And so it's the same thing. You have access to everybody globally, but you also can build community and find people in your area. And maybe, once these lockdowns are lifted, get together with them. It doesn't have to be formal. You don't have to join a coven. Get together for lunch, talk about ideas. Hey, are you into candle magic? Oh, I'm allergic to candles, but I love working with amulets and talismans, and you get to meet all kinds of interesting people that way. So it's not just the global aspect. It's also finding people locally, because a lot of us don't really know how else to do that now.
Now that's a really good point, because you could find somebody through, like I'm on a couple of different neighborhood Facebook, right? And people that I wouldn't necessarily know, but I know that they live near me. And I found a friend, a new friend. We met this year during 2020 on Jim Harold's. We know, but we both know Harold.
Yeah.
He's got a virtual campfire group on Facebook. And I happened to mention that when I was a baby, I saw a ghost at this big high school near my house. And so this woman said, "Oh my gosh, you're from Kansas City? I'm from Kansas City." Turns out
Isn't that something?
And she lives down the street. And now we're friends.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So it even makes your hometown seem a little bit more homey.
It does. It's a wonderful resource. And, if somebody, if a young person or even an old person, I shouldn't put an age on it, but if someone feels real drawn to nature and to nature traditions, and they're thinking, well, I'm scared of witchcraft because I've heard the media and the horror stories and the horror movie aspect and, the old stereotypes. You now have the opportunity to not only go do more research on your own, but to reach out to people that are actually involved and hear from them the truth. This is what it is. It's none of those things, This is what we do. I know a lot of kitchen witches, and I love them. They're the coolest people. And their practice is through cooking and using herbs and creating meals that have magic in them, and using natural homeopathic medicine and healing modalities. So it's being able to get good information from people that are actually involved rather than relying on the things that we see in the media or in entertainment, which are always going to be skewed and sensationalized.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes a story, makes an intriguing story, one that you'd pay attention to, when in reality, the people who practice that I know, they're normal, regular people.
You wouldn't know it if you passed them in the grocery store.
You might have a boring life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to necessarily say, oh, it's just another religion, but in a way it is. I mean, you walk past people every day and you don't necessarily know what their religious or spiritual beliefs are. And it's the same here. It's not a bunch of people walking around in pointy black hats and, carrying a cauldron. And it's probably right now one of the most healing things that people can look into if they are seeking a spiritual path, because we have so lost that connection to the natural world. We're so rushed. We're always indoors. When we do go outside, do we ever stop to just look at the sky or look at the stars at night or look at a tree? And we don't. Oh, I'm outside. Maybe I'm going to do my run. There's always another focus. And then we're back indoors. So, and then we wonder why we're so miserable. But I think it's something that you don't have to call yourself a Wiccan or a witch or a shaman, but you can still embrace a lot of the practices and the traditions. And you might actually find that you love some and you don't like others. And then so build your own practice. There's no hard and set rules other than the law of threefold, which is whatever you put out there comes back to you 3 times. Do no harm, revere nature, revere the feminine and masculine aspects of life, because they have to be balanced. And right now, they're not in society and in the world. So there are some basic rules that are still very broad in how you can create a tradition of your own around them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were just talking about balance.
Yeah.
Balance with the old ways and new ways, nature versus technology.
Inside, outside, up, down. Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of the misery that that people experience comes from not having balance. Working too much, not playing enough, playing too much, not working enough. Being inside, trapped up. When you're inside, a lot of us are inside a lot now, working or going to school or what have you. you can start to feel your world closing in. And what happens to a lot of people is that becomes their comfort zone.
Yeah.
I've noticed that too. It's like, do I really want to go to the grocery store when I can use, Instacart and have them bring it to me? And sometimes I have to remind myself, I'm doing that. I'm letting everything kind of close in and almost becoming agoraphobic.
Yeah, that's my fear, that there are many people becoming more agoraphobic and just not being comfortable going out and being around people.
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. It's also sad to see, when you go a few months or a year without that more personal contact, people, I think they become more immersed in fear. You start to become fearful. Rather, excuse my cough, I'm having allergy issues, but I've noticed that because when I go out, I'm always smiling at everybody.
Yeah.
And usually people smile back, but wow, a lot of people respond fearfully when you smile at them. So I think we're losing some of our humanity that we need to kind of bring back into balance.
So, in speaking of balance, again, I'm just looking over your press materials. Part of this book talks about the high magic versus low magic. And I would imagine we would want to have a balance there. What is the difference between high magic and low magic?
High magic is more ceremonial. Low magic is a little more, I don't want to say crude, but basic, fundamental. Yeah, everyday, down to earth. And people are, whatever floats your boat. Some people love ceremony and ritual and dressing in the garb and following rituals, almost like you would in any other religion. If you go to church and, they have the high mass and everything is very formal and it's beautiful. And it's very symbolic. Other people just want to kind of hang out, and wing it and just work with their herbs. So, yeah, there's like this up here for the people that really want to stick to the true rituals and traditions, like to the T, and they don't want to add their own personal spin. They're more structure oriented, maybe. Mm-hmm. They're not comfortable with kind of adding their own spin or their own mark to something.
Yeah.
And then there's the exact opposite, and there's everything in between. And again, it's all okay as long as you follow the basic rules. And that is you harm no one. And that you're always aware of whatever energy that you put out is going to come back to you. So why on earth would you do black magic or negative witchcraft or negative spells? It's only going to come back to hurt you. And I think that that's like the golden rule, do unto others. And that rule is found in every religion and every spiritual tradition in its own way. It's actually, Buddhism has their own version of the golden rule 1,500 years before Christianity, because it's common sense. Be nice. But it's also about respect. It's about respecting others, respecting nature, respecting yourself. Because if we're all connected, when we do something bad to someone else, we're really, the web is there and we're kind of hurting ourselves. The energy is getting messed up, no matter who your anger or negative energy is directed to. And I think a lot of people forget that.
They do. And I've noticed that anger tends to feed anger. If someone around you is angry and spouting angry words, that tends to make others angry as well. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, energy feeds, and kind of law. What is it? The law of similarities or
law of attraction.
Law of attraction. Yeah, I mean,
which your book covers that as well.
One thing I did notice, though, is that on a lot of like when I was doing the research and I was going on into a lot of Facebook groups and meeting people on Instagram and Twitter, is that there isn't a lot of tolerance for that.
Really?
It's like you're free to be who you are, to speak freely, But as soon as you cross that line of disrespect, that's not what this is about. Out you go. And it was kind of, it's not that you want to suppress speech. I am not for censorship in any form. But if you're going to call yourself something, whether it's a Wiccan, Christian, whatever it is, and you're not respecting the basic laws of that tradition, it only hurts everyone in that tradition if you're, spreading that kind of negative energy. And I didn't see it that much. These are people that are really joyful, happy, resilient. They've got awful things happening in their lives just like anybody else, but they know how to ground themselves and stay balanced and find peace and healing in nature. There are some websites out there that, will do a black magic spell or a voodoo spell to hurt somebody, and these are not real practitioners. No, they're not at all. They're opportunists.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wonder if these people are feeling balanced and well and happy because they feel empowered. If something's going wrong, then they can remedy it. They can pick up the root, some incense or a candle and remedy it.
Well, it is. It's about learning to take responsibility and work with the laws and the energies of nature, the universe would have you, so that when something awful does happen, and again, it does to everyone, you know how to bring yourself back to a state of equilibrium. You know how to maybe take yourself out of that event and see a bigger picture, or, find a silver lining, because you're aware of all of those same laws are operating out there in nature. You go out in nature is very balanced. If there's too much of this and not enough of that, nature will bring it back into balance. So spending a lot of time in nature, I think we sort of reconnect with our own ability to do that we've lost.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, we found that there was, I can't remember what national park had gotten rid of all of the natural predators, the wolves and the coyotes.
Yeah.
And reintroduced them, and in fairly short order, there was balance achieved.
Right, because you get rid of those predators, you've got 1 million deer or whatever the prey was. Now they're competing for resources that, may be limited. And we think, oh, that's awful. Now you've got to cull the deer. But if you just leave it alone, and that's the problem, is that, too many human beings are okay with disrupting the balance of nature for our own benefit. And then we always say, oh, wow, the climate is getting warmer and it's doing this and that, and we're running out of open space, and there's way too many coyotes in my neighborhood, and blah, blah, blah. Well, we've put all that into play because nature has always worked perfectly without our influence. And that was just that sort of checks and balance system that was there. You have too much prey, too many predators, this, that, the other thing. It finds its own equilibrium until some species comes along and decides that they want to control that, and that has been humans.
And now I just wanted to send a shout out to some of our supporters: Julian, John, James, Marissa, Charlotte, Pauline, Becky, and Louise. Thank you all so much for keeping this podcast going. If you'd like to support this podcast too, please hit the like, follow, or subscribe button, or give us 5 stars or a positive review wherever you're listening, and share this with your friends. You can also subscribe to Radiate You, our private Facebook group for bonus content, including classes and meditations. Another way to support our podcast is to go to radiatewellnesscommunity.com/podcast and click on the Donate Now button. However you support us, we greatly appreciate it, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, usually. Yeah, they found that erosion was stopping because the deer were not eating all of the plants, and
Yeah.
the soil could stay in place. I mean, just all kinds of extra benefits that were unforeseen.
Right, because we only look at a very small, limited viewpoint of there's too many wolves or they're killing our cattle, or there's too many coyotes coming into my suburban neighborhood. Forget the fact that we built all the houses on their land. And what's interesting too is that while everybody has been in lockdown, a lot of green areas have, come back to greenery, and the sky has been bluer, and there's been a lot less external pollution. And now, of course, we're all exposed to the indoor pollution. But yeah, when you spend time in nature, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. I don't think I've ever met anybody who said after going outside for a little while that they felt worse.
Right.
I honestly don't think that.
Unless you've got
always,
really bad allergies.
yeah, it has a healing quality to it. Because, if you could have a million problems, but if you go outside and you look at these beautiful flowers, you can't help but think, wow, who or what did that? Those are really beautiful. That's really, look at a tree. They don't care that you can't pay your bills, and it's not, I don't mean that in a negative sense, but there's this sort of continuation of life and death and rebirth, and that it's just there no matter what's happening to us on a personal level. There's that sort of fixed aspect to being alive, that it's eternal. Trees grow and they die, and new trees and grass and everything. And we get so caught up in our little petty everyday issues that we forget that you could go outside at night and look up and see a billion stars, if you had a telescope. And I think that expansiveness, people say when they go to the beach and they look out at the ocean, and they realize how small they are, and but not in a negative way, not in I'm totally meaningless, but I am a drop of water in that huge ocean, and I'm a part of it.
Amazing. So your book does focus quite a bit on nature as well, getting outside, using natural natural ingredients, if we could call it that, for ritual, but also acknowledging the benefits of technology.
Yes.
Right.
And also the fact that not everybody lives in a rural or even a suburban area. You could create a lovely altar or little nook in your apartment in the city or out on your balcony. And it's kind of about making do with, that's another part of the word new being included in the title is, in the olden days, we all lived off the land. Well, now most people live in urban areas. Right. So how do you transform what little space you might have, kind of bring the outside in? And there's a lot of ways to do that. What's really cool is that you get a lot of advice and really cool ideas from people on social media. Oh, this is how I made these indoor planters to grow my herbs. Or I have my little altar by my window. It's the one window in my living room, to get the light in. You start to realize that there are ways that you can bring nature in if you're not always able to, step out on your back patio and have the woods behind your house.
Right. It's not even everybody has a balcony.
Right. But we have windows. We do have windows.
Really does. I mean, it talks about how to set up an altar. what to look for when setting up an altar. And can I just say the book is gorgeous. There's full color photographs.
It's one of the few 4-color books that
Right.
I've been doing with New Page. They're beautiful, or with visible ink. They're absolutely beautiful.
Oh, just gorgeous.
Yeah, they do a great job with the look and feel of the pages and all the images too, and the layout, because there's a lot of information in these books.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really boring for the reader if it was just text. Do this. So it's really laid out beautifully, and I love working with this company.
Well, and too, sometimes it helps to see what
exactly
in action.
Yes.
Right. It helps to see it in action, especially for somebody who would be new to some of this stuff. And my God.
Right. People are visual. We're visual animals. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of beautiful imagery in here.
Yeah. You've got dowsing and numerology and runes and psychometry and so much.
I try to make everything I write almost encyclopedic.
Yeah.
Comprehensive, I guess you could say, because it's hard to get people to buy books nowadays.
Right.
So I feel like if you're going to buy a book from me, it's going to have everything in there that I can possibly get in there. And also because inevitably somebody will say, "Oh, how come you didn't talk about da 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 da?" So I'm trying to beat them to the punch.
Yeah. Oh,
but you do want people to pick up a book and feel like they're getting value. And there's so many books that are out there that I have read where I felt like, I paid $20 for this. I probably could have gotten this, information on the internet, but and it's also nice to have somebody compile all the information for you. And I think that's what's good about a book like this is that, sure, you could go research all of these subjects on your own, but it would take you a long time. So here, it's all in one place, and it's even got pictures.
And there's seriously so much information in here. It's an encyclopedia.
And what's good about that, too, is that people can pick and choose what they like. I cannot burn candles. I have, allergies. And I love candles, though. I love seashells. So I have little seashells set up, little, all kinds of, and that connects me to nature when I'm inside. Right. So you don't have to do everything. Nobody said you have to go from page 1 to the last page and do every single thing in order to be able to call yourself a witch, a Wiccan, a shaman, a pagan. No. The basic rules are the basic rules. Be as unique and creative as you want. And have fun with it, because if you don't, it's not going to be something that you'll stick with, and it's not going to be something that you'll get any benefit from. It'll be a very surface thing if you're trying to I've got to do every single thing she said. No, that's not at all.
Right, because there's a lot here. And even the appendix, I'm looking at the appendix now. Appendix A, gods and goddesses. What they help us with. B, appendix B, stones and their powers.
Yeah.
So helpful. Oh my gosh. Appendix C, useful resources, websites and blogs. Talk about the new witch. Websites and blogs. Oh my gosh. Can
you imagine blogs? Who would have thought that 15 years ago?
Would never have had them.
But it's, again, it's a great way to communicate information and stay connected.
Index, and there's even an index of there are spells in the back.
Yeah, those are fun. And again, always in anything I write, and most 99.9% of the people that I've met and interacted with, these are spells that are positive. They do not attempt to control a situation or a condition for someone else without their permission. again, there are some rules, but if you follow those rules, you can, and, you'll see kind of a template. It's like working with the law of attraction in many ways. And then you can create your own because you kind of follow that basic template. And a lot of it does come down to belief and putting your energy behind that belief, symbolism with stones and candles and things. And they're all meant to really create a little bit of an altered state of consciousness that you do your intention work, your spell work in. That is no different from how many people practice, metaphysical practices, meditation, yoga, what have you. It's all about getting into a very specific mindset and then aligning the body with the mind if you're doing yoga or Tai Chi or something. In meditation, kind of getting back to that balance and that center. Mm-hmm. And I think that's all kind of a part of spell casting.
Really?
You get grounded, you get centered, you work with your breath and your energy and your faith and your belief, and then you cast forward. Spell, it means words, letters. You put out there, either written or verbally, what that intention is, always knowing that it will come back to get you if it's good or bad. So, like, what is it? What's the, you better watch out, you better not cry. So be good for goodness sake. Right. But that's something that a lot of people think, oh, yeah, I'm going to try to get my ex back. No. You're not. This is not about controlling someone else. No. Unless I ask you, please help me. I need some healing energy. Then you could do that. You could work with that. But no, it's not about all that silly TV stuff.
It really does ruin it for us in many ways.
It does. I would like to say that it at least brings some people in, they get interested from that. But I think once they find out that's not what it is, they go running, oh, this is boring. What, you mean I have to learn all these herbs? No, I want to make $1 million. Okay, well, it's going to take you a while because even working with law of attraction is not something that happens overnight. So working with the laws of nature, you're not going to be able to do, bing, like in Genie, I Dream of Genie, or Bewitched.
Bewitched with the nose.
With the nose, yeah. It's not going to work that way.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, I like that you say that there's just certain order that you put into spells. The intention, create the space, grounding, all these different steps. It takes the mystery out of mysticism.
Yeah, it's structure, just like prayer or just like law of attraction work or goal setting. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's just we're using more symbols and we're bringing nature into it. And we may be, when people pray, they pray to God or they pray to whatever religion, whatever deity there is. So you may have Wiccans that are praying to the goddess or casting the spell and asking the goddess for help with whatever it is. So some of the language and semantics are different, but the basic structure is the same. And it's just like sitting down on New Year's and doing some goals, although you're more likely to keep them because you're adding that element of ritual and symbolism and those old traditions and really getting into it a lot more rather than just sitting down and saying, okay, I'd like to lose 10 pounds, make $1 million. It goes a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, it does. And let me ask you this, Marie. Before you sat down to write this book, had you been practicing witchcraft?
I practiced in my 20s, and then I stopped. I practiced in my 40s, and then I stopped, and now I'm really back into it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
There are people that it's, if they're born into sort of a hereditary family, that's from day one. There are other people that come into it when they're 68. There are people that do it for a year, don't like it. It's okay. It's not, you're not going to be punished. With me, I had to be careful because I'm really, really driven with work ambition. I work a lot. And then you kind of realize, oh, I haven't been outside in a week, or I feel so disconnected.
Sure.
There's no beautiful magic in my life anymore. It's all work, work, work. So you can kind of do this, go in and out of a practice. You can have a practice that stays the same. You can have a practice that 10 years into it, you totally decide you can't stand anymore and completely change. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
You may be a witch and then decide, oh no, I'm really into shamanism, and it's just part of the journey. It's part of the process. But I think that there is a little bit of witchcraft and earth tradition in all of us, because a lot of us, when we were children, we loved to play outside. We felt very connected and very down to earth. And as adults, most of us lose that. Not all, but most. And then we always kind of say, oh, life is so boring. There's no magic to it. Well, there is, but you have to find it. You have to find ways to look for it and reconnect with it. And that's what I hope it does. I hope that it kind of helps people, just even if it's just a little bit, because there's a lot of craziness going on in the world right now. And I think when nobody walks around perfectly balanced. Usually it's like this, but if we can kind of get it in here in this range, then I think, we'll treat each other a lot better, and we'll treat the planet a lot better as a result.
Are there any spells, either in this book or ones that you could recommend to just kind of...
Oh, gosh, I have to go back and look at them all. But I think the best thing to do, if you go through them, is to do the ones that you have things around the house for already. And you'll find that a lot of them, everybody's got candles of different colors. Some people have I have a ton of just beautiful gemstones and polished stones just because I love them. I think they're pretty. You could have seashells. And try the simplest ones first. And some could be writing down what your intention is, what the purpose of the spell is on a piece of paper. Use a fancy pen or, in a certain color. There's color correspondences for different things. So, for example, if you wanted to bring more money, more prosperity into your life, you could use a green or gold candle or a green or gold pen. And you could put that little piece of paper under the candle, light the candle, burn it down, go bury the piece of paper. There's just so many different things you could do just with a piece of paper and a candle. Other people might want to have some incense so that they can really get into an altered state and do some chanting and, have all kinds of knickknacks and things on their altar. It really depends on you as an individual. But starting out, I always think keep it simple. I don't want to say keep it simple, stupid, but, the KISS, keep it simple. And just get your feet wet. See what you like. I mean, if you're laughing at yourself like, oh, this is so silly, it's going to take a few tries for you to realize that you're actually putting energy and intention out there, and maybe you might want to take it a little more seriously. But maybe you don't like working with stones. They just don't resonate with you. Maybe you're more of a candle person, or you love divination. And that was something that I noticed was missing in a lot of other books, is that a lot of people feel drawn to a very specific type of divination system, astrology, the pendulum, numerology, whatever. So maybe that's your entrance into what you're doing, because you can do your spell casting, but you can also do a numerological chart for something, a relationship or a new job. Same thing with astrology. So it's pretty open. But I think for somebody new, you don't want to get into the real 25 ingredients are needed for this, and you're going to have to do it on this night, because there are those spells. They're very, very, and rituals are very, very complicated. And I wanted to just try to keep the simple ones here so that people don't get intimidated, like, oh, forget it. I don't have time to go buy frankincense, 5 green stones, a Kennedy $50. So keep it simple at first. The thing is, even if you don't have the things that are in the book, you could use anything symbolically. You could use a beautiful piece of art to kind of get you into that mindset. You can have anything represent nature. You could bring leaves in from outside. Who doesn't have leaves blowing around? Flowers that somebody gave you. Anything can be a tool, as long as you have some kind of symbolic connection with it to what it is that you want.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. I mean, many of the things that you recommend in the book are things we have just sitting around.
Sitting around, yeah.
The paper, the pens.
They call it practical witchcraft. And it's practical because you don't have to go spend $10,000 buying all kinds of supplies. I love the movie Practical Magic with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock. Because the movie's fun, but just, they're just 2 women. And they're just doing their thing. And a lot of what they do is very kitchen witch practical. So it doesn't have to be fancy. Unless you like fancy, then make it fancy.
I mean, you can get as fancy as you want. There are special garments to wear, clothes.
Yes, there's beautiful chalices and cups and things that you can have on your altar. As fancy as you want. And there are people that love that. They love putting on the gorgeous velvet robes. And, I'm kind of not that way. I'm more, what's around? But that's my personality. And it's just so cool because anybody, from one extreme to the other and in between, there's always something that you can do as long as you play by the basic rules.
Be kind,
Yes. Do unto others.
Exactly. Be pure of intention, pure of intent.
Right.
Of heart in doing this. No, those are good guidelines to follow and practice. Anything else that you think this book talks about or treats you think it's important to mention that we should know?
I think that there is a real call to balance the masculine with the feminine, not to suppress either one, because they're both a necessity. And the god and goddess, the whole symbolism behind that. If you look in nature, you will see evidence of sort of masculine energies and feminine energies, the sun and the moon and night and day, and all of these different dualities, but they're all working together perfectly. We don't have a lot of that in humanity. And I think that's important because men have a feminine aspect, women have a masculine aspect that has to be acknowledged. Also, acknowledging the shadow of your own self, as well as the light, and getting outside and looking around and realizing, nature has the cure for every disease. Nature has a way of calming the savage beast, just like music, and just bringing some balance back, above, below, feminine, masculine, inside, outside, because when we're more in balance is when we're happier. We feel better about our lives. We feel more connected to ourselves. And I think we desperately need that right now.
Goodness, we do. We do so much. So this book, The New Witch, your guide to modern witchcraft, Wicca, spells, potions, magic, and more, is really a useful tool in today's society, in today's times, with what we've got going on.
And I think it's a fun one.
It's fun.
It is. There's a lot of fun in there too. Make life fun again.
And it's pretty. It's got beautiful pictures.
Yes. We all need a little more magic in our lives.
We need a little more magic in our lives.
We do.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Where can we get this book, Marie?
Well, it's available anywhere books are sold. Right now, online bookstores probably are your best bet, but, regular bookstores and probably in the library. And I believe it's out on audiobook by now, too. If not, it should be very soon.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I like audiobooks myself. I kind of like listening to those. And then your website
is www.mariedjones.com.
You need
easy enough.
D is in dynamite. D is in dynamic. Because there's
because
there's a lot of Marie Joneses out there. So
I know. Isn't that awful?
mariedjones.com. Thank you. And the book, The New Witch, Your Guide to Modern Witchcraft, Wicca, Spells, Potions, Magic, and More by Visible Ink Press.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Marie. And
thank you. It was a pleasure.
Oh, it's so much fun to talk to you. A witchy new year.
Yes, let's do that.
All right.
Radiate Wellness is a community of holistic and alternative healers and consultants based in the Kansas City area, dedicated to helping you create spiritual, energetic, and physical well-being. To learn more about our practitioners, services, classes, and events, or to schedule an appointment, visit us at radiatewellnesscommunity.com.